Now that I have you all excited about GPOs and the power of GPOs, you can imagine it can be a lot of time put into creating and configuring and managing and linking these GPOs. So we want to make sure they're protected. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about backing up and restoring GPOs. And as you'll see, I've provided the PowerShell commands for doing so here. And if we store our GPOs into a central location, we can then import that GPO to allow us to take advantage of a GPO we created in a different location, and we want to utilize those configuration settings. We can create a GPO and use that as a template and then go ahead and copy that GPO. And if we've hosed the default domain policy or the default domain controller policy, we can reset those very easily by jumping out to an elevated command prompt using the DCGPO fix, and we'll specify /target:/domain for a default domain policy reset, and the /target is to reset the default domain controller policy. So we'll continue our exploration of GPOs by looking at how we can manage those GPOs by performing the task we just introduced. So here we are in GPMC. We're going to click on our domain, and we're going to see we have our default domain policy. I can expand on our domain. It's going to show me the group policy objects node. We have our two out-of-the-box group policy objects, the domain controller and the domain policy, and we've seen how to reset those in the event we mess those up. But we can also create a new one in here. We're going to right-click on Group Policy Objects and click New. We'll provide a name, MTP Good Stuff. We can choose the source starter in case we have pre-configured some settings that we want to be applied to this group policy. And I'll go ahead and click OK, and we have our MTP Good Stuff available. I go in and make several other changes. I want to make sure I back this up. I can go ahead and right-click on it, and I can choose the backup option. We can dump it on the desktop for starters. I'll call this Quick Backup. And then we'll kick off the backup. It's so small, not much happened. You'll see that it was successful, and you'll see that it popped into my desktop over here. I'll go ahead and click OK on that. I can also go in and back up all my group policy objects if I have several in here by right-clicking it and do a backup all. It's the same location. It's going to pop it over here on my desktop as well. And the steps are the same, and it'll pop it in the location that you specify here. So you don't have to back them up individually. If I want to merge some settings, I can go to a GPO in here, right-click, and do an import settings. And you'll see it up here. It explains that you can import settings from any GPO that's backed up. Does not modify other attributes of the GPO such as security filtering, delegation, links, and WMI filter links. So it's specific configurations for the user or the computer. I'll go ahead and click Next. It's going to ask me if I want to back up this GPO before I update it. Probably a good idea, so I'll go ahead and back that up. And we've seen this interface before. We'll click Backup. That was successful. We'll go ahead and do an OK. Now we'll hit Next, and then I can cruise through to locate the backup of the settings that I want to import. I'm going to grab the first one. There's really no changes. I'll go ahead and click Next on this. It's going to provide a confirmation screen. I'll click Finish, and it's going to import, thus merging those two settings. I'll go ahead and close that out. And a couple other things I can do. I can go to the MTP Good Stuff. I really like this one and I want to share it with others. I can right-click and make a copy of this. And then I'll go to the Group Policy Objects, and I'll right-click, and I'll use the Paste option instead. It's going to ask if I want to use the default permissions for the new GPO or preserve the existing permissions. So it's your choice depending on what you're trying to accomplish here. We'll go ahead and click OK. It's going to go ahead and create a copy of the MTP Good Stuff, but I can right-click, rename that, and get rid of the copy of, and we'll call this Bad Stuff. And now we've copied and renamed a GPO. I can also go into the GPO objects and look at the managing of backups. You notice I have a couple different backups here. We see two, and we see two on my desktop. If I have several versions of a GPO that I've backed up, I can filter it out by clicking this box here to show only the latest version of each GPO. So a way to filter out and manage our backups. So those are the steps necessary for backing up, restoring, importing, and copying GPOs.